Hello and welcome to our weekly Torah Talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Susan Silverman from Jerusalem. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
She is the author of the forthcoming book, Casting Lots, How Raising My Children Helped Me Find God. And she'll join me for a conversation about our Parashat this week, Parashat Korach, from Sefer Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 16. And it contains one main story, the story of Korach and his assembly. ויקח קורח בן יצהר בן קהת בן לוי ודתן ואבירם בני אליאב ואון בן פלט בני ראובן. Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, along with Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelet, descendants of Reuben. They assembled against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for the entire congregation are all holy, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you raise yourself above the Lord's assembly?"
First, I'd just like to mention that there is a lot of eponymous work that the rabbis do, where they sort of go back to all the list of names, the list of the fathers and forefathers.
Yeah, why do we need to know who they really are, where they come from?
Right. Well, that's a good question. Why do we need to know? I mean, the rabbis, what they do is they sort of unpack the different names, and they find reasons within either the shoresh of the name,
Right,
or the root of the letters of the name, or something about that character, such as Reuven maybe being displaced by some of the other brothers.
okay.
That would have sort of led to Korach. Wanting to undermine the community on behalf of his own power. And it's an interesting read if anybody wants to look it up, just to see what the eponymous work is done and trying to figure out, from now, looking back, why Korach may have become what he is. But I think it's also useful to look at maybe Korach as a member of Bnei Israel and the blows they have just suffered. In response to them, not having the faith to move forward with God into the promised land, to risk what it takes to sort of to risk their well-being in order to reach a greater level of holiness, in order to be in their own land in relationship with God.
Right.
They stayed still. They stayed stuck where they were, and
They were punished, and they'll have to remain to stay in the desert.
that they'd have to stay in the desert. Not only that they'll wander for 40 years, but that the adults in that group are all going to die in the wilderness, and that their bones are just going to disintegrate, unmarked, unrecognized, unknown by any of their descendants. And just a couple of weeks ago, and just before Shavuot, right? We read that that they're all named, that they matter, that each and every one of them matters. The census, that God counts because God loves, that God looks at each of us individually, even as God loves us as a community. And then all of a sudden, boom, the opposite is true. We made this mistake, and a bad mistake, and boom, it's gone.
So this makes you somewhat sympathetic to the complaints of Korach and his cronies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sympathetic. I'm sympathetic to the sense of despair that the whole people might have had. I'm not particularly sympathetic to the way that he expressed his grief, if that's what it was.
And he was severely punished. So why was he punished? What is the essential sin of these people?
Well, I'd actually like to expand the question a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Why was he punished? Why was Korach's band punished? And why were the children in the what does it say in the Parashat? I don't remember, like Tanim, like the tiny ones, the littlest ones, also
Punished.
swallowed up into this, what the rabbis describe as Gehenom, or as like a semi-Gehenom, or as like not even dying, but just like living, and then every month having to recite, basically like Moses was right, Moses was right, in this like for eternity. I mean, it's really some very sick and drastic stuff. And I can imagine feeling really, really angry and hostile towards someone who's like all of a sudden like, why did you do all this? And things were perfect in Egypt, and you're just ruining everything, and sort of blaming Moses for the punishment that they received based on their own actions. So I can understand like really wanting to like slap those people, but it seems to me quite extreme, and not just for Korach and his band, but for like small children. And I think of God providing water in the desert for Ishmael, and that it says in the text that God saw Ishmael where he was. And what the rabbis take from that is this idea that Ishmael may have, his progeny may one day cause great distress to God's chosen people, the Israelites. So why did God save Ishmael? And God said he saw the Na'ar where he was, meaning where he was in his life, an innocent child.
Right.
At that point. So I look at the children of Korach.
You don't see the same merciful God with them.
Yeah. And I just am left wondering, what was the difference? What was the essence here? And the rabbis give us a suggestion as to what that was, if you want me to continue on, or if you want to ask some more questions.
No. That's great. Yeah. Give me their suggestion, because I've been struggling with it as well.
Okay, so they're in Bamidbar Rabbah. There's a midrash that said, I'll read to you. Korach jumped up and asked Moses, if a talit were to be made entirely of blue, would it not be exempted from the mitzvah of fringes? Moses answered him, it requires fringes, nonetheless, to fulfill the commandment. Korach retorted, a talit that is not entirely blue cannot exempt itself from this obligation, yet the 4 blue threads among the fringes do fulfill it. Would a house full of Torah scrolls be exempt from the mitzvah of mezuzah? Moses told him, it requires a mezuzah nonetheless to fulfill the commandment. Korach again retorted, an entire Torah scroll which contains 245 columns cannot exempt a house from needing a mezuzah, yet 1 column in a mezuzah fulfills the commandment upon a house. These are the things which you have not been commanded, but you are inventing them out of your own mind. Right? So, the idea that Korach is sort of, to me, I understand this midrash as sort of like missing the picture. Like Korach is looking for ways to either to undermine a commandment or to clarify to the nth degree a commandment, when the idea of the commandment is sort of like mission oriented. It helps us to like look forward toward that promised land. And these kinds of questions of the minutiae, or of confusing the symbol with the thing itself, means that we're bogged down, and we're not allowing to hold us up as we move forward toward a messianic vision, toward making a better world, toward like really fulfilling the brit of creating and recreating the world with God. And as soon as we get bogged down in those minutiae, or it becomes the end in itself. These questions become the end in itself, where we've lost it. We've lost the purpose.
Okay, but I'm lost here. Why would this explain the severe punishment of the people that went with Korach, including small children?
Right, because I think the idea of not being able to see the forest for the trees, not being able to have a sense of mission and vision. I mean, the whole reason that we were punished, that Bnei Israel was not allowed to come in to the land of Israel, is because we were like mired in our fear, mired in our immediate moment, mired in comparisons between Egypt and where we were then, and we couldn't see the future. We couldn't see a sense of vision, a sense of possibility, a sense of a better world in relationship with God. And here it shows Korach, again, miring himself in the symbol of mezuzah is the symbol of us being in a relationship with God, right? And that's a grand vision. And he's lost the grand vision. He's just looking at the minutiae. He's just looking at the details of each mitzvah.
Rabbi Silverman, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for being with us.
Shabbat shalom. Thanks so much.